This year, the city is spending millions of dollars on a marketing campaign to persuade outsiders that Boston is, quote, all-inclusive, an explicit effort to counter the nagging image of the city as a racially unwelcoming environment. Does that message match the reality of life here for people of color? And if not, what do you intend to do about that beyond this ad campaign?
We are indeed a world-class international city, and I have been stressing that. Obviously, folks come here from around the world to go to our higher ed institutions to, of course, get medical research and other things done at our medical institutions. The list is long where the city of Boston is number one. But I also stress there's a flip side. By certain metrics, we are one of the most unequal cities in the country. And my personal story is an example of the sort of tale of two cities. On the one hand, a poor girl from Roxbury could get everything that you would need to make it to a Princeton University and to be successful. This city gave me everything. On the other hand, my twin brother dies while in the custody of a state prison. This city did not work for him. And so when I jumped into the mayor's race in September, I stressed we can continue to be a world-class city while closing the gaps in the inequities in housing, in our education system, the racial wealth gap, and our parks, access to parks, transportation, you name it. That work lies ahead. And the only way we do it is if we work across every neighborhood and work in collaboration. And I'm confident the city of Boston can get rid of that reputation and truly be an inclusive and equitable city for everyone.
Certainly, we have to continue to work towards breaking down our systems that are too often rooted in racism when we think about our city's history, and build upon some of the great things happening in our city. And that's about bringing new residents here to the city of Boston and helping them make Boston their home through housing opportunities, through more affordability on the rental market, and more opportunities within ownership. We have to make it possible for those that want to make Boston home. We have to make it possible for them. We have to help them along that way. We also need to make sure that Boston is a more welcoming city within the tourism industry. It is one of our leading industries here in the city of Boston. It generates a great deal of revenue so that we as a city can continue to invest in affordable housing opportunities, invest in our education system, invest in our transit system when we think about both Boston and the region and the Commonwealth. So being more proactive in welcoming new people to our city, both to visit and to live, has to be a main priority for the mayor of the city. It will be for mine, but that we are every day focused on breaking down systemic racism that exists through so many delivery systems and creating more affordable opportunities. Boston continues to be expensive, and we've got to continue to find ways to drive the cost of living and visiting our city down.
I know a lot has been said about Boston's reputation. And, for me, I'm focused on our reality. Certainly, I know as someone who grew up in the city of Boston, was bused during the battle to desegregate Boston public schools in the 1970s at 11 years old, saw firsthand, racism play out in our schools with racial slurs and rocks thrown at me and other students. But as I sit here as the first mayor, that is a woman, the first Black mayor, I also realize how far our city has come. It does not mean we have solved everything. My entire career has been focused on equity, inclusion, access, and opportunity for all of Boston residents, particularly those who have been left out. The All-Inclusive campaign, which I was so proud to launch earlier on in my administration, and then invest an additional $1 million, I think is an important one. It is the first time, John, that I have seen my city, the city that I love, reflect me and how we talk about ourselves. And it really made me emotional the first time I saw that video, because it was the first time that I saw myself. And for me, as a Bostonian who grew up here in the city, I love the Sitco sign over in Kenmore above Fenway Park. But I also love the Simcoe sign on the bridge in Mattapan. Both are important and both represent Boston. And while I want to bring more folks into our city, it is very important as we think about our economic recovery, as we think about how we grow our city, and for folks to see the rich diversity that is here. Boston is still a majority people of color city, but we've got to make sure that it works for everyone and that we're doing everything we can to promote what is special about Boston. And for me, it's our neighborhoods. Our neighborhoods are amazing. It's our people, the people of Boston, our small businesses. That is what the all-inclusive campaign does. And we still have to do work on the ground to make sure that we are dealing with the persistent inequities that exist.
Boston is one of the most vibrant, diverse, energetic communities. We have expertise, we have activism, we have history, but we often see that that is very segregated across our neighborhoods. And so the goal of painting the story of our city through various ad campaigns, telling our story outside of the city, as well as internal efforts to make sure that we are creating spaces for communities to come together and to be reflected in every resource in every part of our city, that has to go hand in hand. I am someone who was not born in Boston, right? I'm among the group of folks who made their way to the city for college and stayed. But even today, in conversations I have with young people of color who had come to the city for school, there's often a repetition of the same conversations that we hear of, well, my family members told me, my friends told me, my neighbors told me, are you sure you want to go to Boston? Will you be welcomed there? Will you feel comfortable there? And so that is having huge impacts on our city as a city now in an increasingly fluid and mobile economy where people can choose to live anywhere they want and then zoom into many jobs. We have to be even more persistent about ensuring that Boston has everything that you can't get except in person: a thriving and welcoming arts and culture and restaurant scene, spaces for communities to gather and to be reflected, to be seen and welcomed in every part of our city. And that also requires not just the social aspects, but really tackling inequality and systemic racism through the policies that we need. I'm proud to have put forward many, many bold plans that were developed in partnership with communities, and especially to close our gaps across the city.
The all-inclusive ad was really important. It's a historic campaign. In fact, the city of Boston's never put out a marketing campaign in that way, but this is the time to do it. We need to make sure that people understand that Boston's safe to visit and that we invite them back in. Now, as we do it, we took the opportunity to show some really different places that you can go. All of the images, all of the restaurants, all of the places that we're inviting people to check out in Boston are real. Those are real people. Those are real places that you can visit. In fact, you can make sure that you have a very diverse experience in Boston. Boston's a very global, international city. You can also, if you want, have a very bland experience in Boston and not see those neighborhoods and not see those restaurants. All of that is authentic. Boston can be many cities to many different people. What we're asking people to do, in fact, is just to broaden your horizon. Check out some local restaurants. Take it on a path that you typically haven't traveled before. Boston has a lot to offer, and we wanted to showcase it.